Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have with me today a very, very special guest. I'm going to call her by her name, and correct me if
Yes,
I don't say it right. Tapiwa Dzingai.
yes. Tapiwa, Dzingai.
Tapiwa
Yeah.
Dzingai. I love it, love it, love it, love it. All of our names have a meaning. Mine means angel, and it also means queen. So what is yours?
Mm. What does mine mean? It means like a gift from God. Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
It's nice. I like that. I like that. And you are a gift from God, truly. Truly.
yeah. Thank you.
You are. You and I are both part of an organization called We Will. And you have just been such a warm spirit to work with. And I love that you come and support the events. You know, we're pushing the bill HB 4954, the Black History Expansion, and you have been like, we need to promote this. We need to get this out. I'm like, oh, I love her energy. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, it's not now when, Malika. We've been waiting for centuries. We got to get it done.
Thank you. Thank you. What, it's been 400 years? Wow, we got to wait longer? Why? Why? But another thing that makes you such a gift from God is this product right here, this learning tool that you have called Sunrise. And it's spelled Saanrize. And Tapua is part of the coalition that I put together, where, you know, we're helping to put a curriculum together to teach more of Black history, who Black people really are, where they came from before they were enslaved. That's important, that's key.
Yeah.
Before we were enslaved, there was a story there, and that story is never taught to our children. Never taught to our children in the school system. They always have Black Americans start out in shackles and chains, like that was the beginning of who we are. And it's so not true. And what I love is that this learning tool that you have here gives people more information about people who are of African descent. And I love that. So why don't you tell the people more about these flashcards, how you came up with the name, and just Tapua. Tell us who you are. You are just
Well, yeah, before I go into the cards, let me kind of tell you a little bit of the story behind the company. So Sunrise, we wanted to find a name that was basically going to connect all people of African descent. And we found out the San are kind of like the oldest tribe that's existing right now. So we thought we'd lean into that. And so, hey, maybe we could play on to Sunrise, because what we're trying to do is kind of initiate a new dawn or an uprising of people of African descent and create products that are enriching for children so they can take pride and hopefully change the narrative around how they view them as being of African descent, but even equally as important, how others see them, right? Our story is not just one of strife and struggle and overcoming. There's something richer. With the beginning of humanity started in Africa. You know, those are the roots, and there's an incredible story that we have, contributions that we've made. And we wanted to start and see how we could impact kids, because if we can get them young, then we can breed a new generation of folks that have a different perspective of view of themselves and of how others see them as people of African descent. So that's the story behind Sunrise and kind of this uprising that we're embarking on with my partner Nomsa. And then how the cards came about is we're kind of posting information about, you know, kings and queens and places and history. We were learning ourselves and realized from our followers that people were really engaging with this, and a lot of other people didn't know it. So we thought, hey, how can we put this information that we kind of put together in a fun way? So that's how the cards came. And then this idea of saying, how do we empower other people of African descent? So we collaborated with artists to create all the visuals and a graphic designer. So the artist is from Zimbabwe, and the graphic designer is actually in Kenya. And we worked to bring this product to life. And the idea is that people could learn. And as they learned, we included a few game tips and game ideas. So you could play, whether that's in the classroom or you have friends at home, you could play with the cards and test each other. And so it would be a fun way to kind of enrich and emancipate our minds, which is an important piece.
Yes. Oh, I like that. Emancipate our minds. I like that. I like that. So tell us a little bit more like how the cards would work. And
So the cards,
I'm going to put a link for you all to order these cards from Tapiwa. They're really fascinating. I'm a grown adult and I'm enjoying looking at these flashcards.
let me grab so I can show you exactly.
Okay. I love this, love this.
All right. So the first thing you'll notice here is that they're basically color-coded. So there's basically 4 themes within the deck. So the green is places. So this is places, and the first deck is focused on Southern Africa. The idea is we have a complete deck that covers the entire African continent. So there's 4 themes. So there's one which is places, there's the green. Then there's culture, so you can learn about all these different cultures from the region. That's in red. And then these goldish colored cards, these are royalty, right, from the region. And then the orange cards are discoveries in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And so we focus this deck on pre-1884 and Southern Africa, these 10 countries. And there's a significance to pre-1884. 1884 was the time when basically a bunch of Europeans sat around a table and decided they were going to carve out Africa and decide who gets what and divide it into what we now know as these African countries. So we wanted to say significantly, we are looking at the point before colonization, before Europeans into the continent. Look and see what was in Africa and what was being what amazing contributions they made. We had kings and queens before they arrived. We had discoveries and pioneered in math and medicine and mining and all these amazing things. And we have kingdoms and places that you could even go and visit today and see some of those, although they were part of those places have been ruined, destroyed on purpose, or ransacked for their jewels and stuff. But there is still evidence of them still remaining. And just learn about the different cultures and traditions, and so people can see, hey, things that are different are still cool. And just because they're different doesn't mean they're weird. It's just different. So that was what we were trying to do, is really just give a kind of a holistic view. And each of these decks will have those 4 themes in it. And so you can imagine if you were playing a game of Guess Who, if you knew stuff, you could flip a card, for example, you pick 3 points and someone tries to guess who that person is or what that place is. Or you can do like Snowman, which is the alternative, I think, to Hangman that we used to play when I was a kid, because that's probably not a good game to play anymore. So that's the intent, was to make it fun and engaging, so we have cool visuals, and then have some content there that you can learn from and then start to engage with.
Okay.
And so, for example, my kids will wake up and they'll be like, hey, they'll pull a card that they like, and they'll be like, can you tell me what this card is about? And then I'll tell them what it is. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, you said the royalty. That's more the gold card. That definitely.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
The royalty.
Yes.
Royalty cards.
Yes.
I'm always stressing, especially with pushing this bill, that our children aren't taught that we came from royalty. That is our background before being enslaved. And I don't think our children know enough about that. So tell us about Queen Nandi.
So Queen Nandi was King Shaka was one of the greatest military strategists in Africa. And it was his mother. She was a single mom. And she raised him and then groomed him to becoming a king. And when he was out on expeditions and stuff, when she stayed in his place, she was the head of state and she ran everything. And she influenced him to have a lot of female advisors. And what you'll see in this deck, you'll see that there's, in African culture, you think right now we're struggling around getting the first female president. In Africa, having a female head of state was not a big, there's tons of them. Across the continent, you will find them. There's Queen Dzingai, who liberated people. There's all female armies. Like, there was this great reverence in terms of the culture and value that's placed around women, which is also an interesting story, I think, for young girls and boys to be seeing that you can be anything. And that's part of who we are. And we have this respect for women that's inherent in who we are as people of African descent.
Oh, yes. Black women, we are strong. I love that there are a lot of queens in here,
yes.
Women who are really running things. Here's Queen Dzingai. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Go
Yeah, and
ahead.
there's actually a statue of her in Angola, and she's kind of seen as like the symbol of women's empowerment in the region, so to speak. So she's pretty badass.
I
Because
see.
she
Yes.
fought against the Portuguese, I think if I remember correctly, for 40 years, trying to prevent them from like overtaking her kingdom, so to speak. So that's pretty impressive, and it's a great story of resilience and leadership as well.
So it says here she appointed her sisters as generals and put women
Yes.
in government and military positions. Oh, this woman is
Yes.
bad. Y'all got to look at her.
Yeah.
Queen Dzingai. Yes. Let's see, we need statues of her around here. Okay, then we have, all right, we have King, I'm not sure if I'm gonna pronounce this right. You seeing him?
King Sobuza.
King Zobuza. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now he
So
organized,
he's from Eswatini, I think, if I remember correctly.
yes, Swazi Nation. Am I
Yes.
saying it
So
correctly?
at some point they're called Swaziland, but their name is Eswatini. And they're located inside. Some people think it's South Africa, but it's actually its own kingdom inside of South Africa. And he kind of founded Eswatini. And so he was again another great king that's from the region who kind of brought together and protected his people. And they have a very interesting culture in that they've been able to preserve their monarchy. So even today, the monarch kind of runs things in Eswatini as you were to build, and in terms of their attire and how they dress, they've been able to preserve that compared to where, if I can compare to Zimbabwe, if you were to show up, you're not going to see as many people in traditional attire, so to speak, but they've been able to keep their roots and their heritage, and it's very pervasive in the culture. So that's pretty cool.
All right now this man looks serious.
Oh, Changamire Nombo. There is some rumor, he's actually very interesting. I don't think I put this in the cards. I'm not sure if it was totally legit, that he might have been part of the inspiration behind the Black Panther, of the story was behind this guy. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, yes,
this
tell
one
me that
that's
story.
truly bad, and I didn't make it to the card because we didn't want to put something we weren't sure about. But we did hear that piece. And so there's a kingdom called this is from my part of the world, the Roji people. And he was a great leader, and he had a huge empire that spanned across multiple countries in the region. And that's where it's interesting. People will say to me, like, what do you identify with? And I kind of see myself as African first and Zimbabwean second, because at the end of the day, all these people are interconnected, and the idea of Zimbabweanness is fake borders. And so even this kingdom doesn't transcend it across what are modern day countries today of different groups of people that were a part of this kingdom. And he had an extremely great army. And I think he traded quite a lot as well in gold and silver and stuff like that. So he was one of the more dominant rulers within Southern Africa as well.
Wow, this is great. So,
And what we tried to do as well was try and make sure that we're mixing in, because there's more than what we included in this deck, right? We
right.
just tried to mix in to have some of the larger tribes and maybe some smaller, lesser known people, so we have a kind of a balance, given we only have 50 cards to cover this stuff in. So we try to balance that. So we can also, there's a concept of minority people on the African continent that we also give them a spotlight. So it's not just the majority tribes or kingdoms that get highlighted.
Okay, and I mean, I could see why people will fight against this kind of information being taught to all children. Like, we want all children to learn this history of Black people. And I can see this will be very empowering. This will make a child feel like they can do anything in the world. Because me, as a grown woman reading this, just the royalty section of it all, it makes me feel very, yes, I feel rich.
Take this one, right? This is Great Zimbabwe. This is from where I'm from, right? And this is a kingdom that was basically like the size of 80 baseball fields. This place is huge, right? And so the second largest architectural wonder in Africa. And what's interesting, it's on purpose that people don't know these stories, because even when the first Europeans arrived, they tried to come up with a narrative that these people are not smart enough to have built this. So it had to be aliens or with some random people that came from before. These are giant structures, and these are mortarless bricks, which means there's nothing holding them together. But architecturally, they were able to build this huge kingdom of bricks and granite stacked on top of each other with nothing holding them together, but create this huge kingdom. That means they were pretty smart. And there's even evidence that potentially there was some stuff in terms of the alignments from an astronomy perspective that they understood these stuff. So if people understood this, it doesn't fit the narrative of saying maybe historically people that were taken as slaves were slaves from this dark continent that was uncivilized and had savages, and look at them, aren't they lucky that they ended up somewhere else because what was there? That's not true, right? If you said that, then it's like these people were robbed, taken from this continent, stripped and not allowed to speak their language, take on the last names of their masters, right? Not be able to lose part of their culture and tradition. That's huge in terms of identity and pride, right? So that's, if it didn't mean anything, they wouldn't have worked so hard to strip it away from African Americans. It means something and has worth. And if people learn it, I think it will make you think differently as you're looking at Black people in this country. And also, they can also stand strong and say, look, if we did this pre-1884, we're in 2018, I can do anything. We are, we are fierce. So I think it's important, I think, again, for ourselves and for others of how they perceive us.
Yes, very, very important. We're determined to change the way how the information is put out there to our kids. We have to stop the miseducation. Now, I come from a family of artists. Evanston is rich in art, and of course, this card captured my attention too. Yes. So yes, tell us about this. Now, some of these words I'm going to let you just go ahead and tell me how to pronounce them, because Chongoni Rock Art Area? Chongoni, am I saying it correctly?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So rock art, this is it's called art, but it's actually a way of communicating, right? And that's like, that region is kind of the highest concentration of people that were making these art designs on their rock. And you can see that they were fishing. It tells stories around what they were doing, and at that time, it's evidence that they were there so long ago. And you can see as you're watching and looking at those different paintings that it's also documenting some of their traditions and the heritage within there, and they're just stunning. And I hope one thing that it does too, as you see this, you go, oh my God, what interesting and amazing people and what they were doing. And maybe I want to go and see that in person.
Yes. Yes. Girl, these are.
And they were talking about how do we integrate this stuff into our curriculum. I'm going to pick one of these, right? Like Lebombo, right? Lebombo. Imagine if you're teaching math, right? Mm-hmm. And here's a card, and this is the oldest known mathematical instrument. Is this Lebombo? And where was it? In Swaziland, in Eswatini. Where is that? In Africa. Mm. They knew math so long ago, right? So we contributed towards where math is today with this. And if you think there's another one which has Lusona.
Oh, I was going to use this.
These art designs, right?
Okay.
Putting these patterns together is actually math. And you could actually use these patterns as a way of you teaching math in school and teaching mathematical concepts. Again, this is something that people invented like over 1,600 years ago. They came up with this design system that's using mathematical principles that they use for storytelling and as well as understanding these math principles. Again, a lot of creativity, and they were really smart people, right, to come up with this so long ago.
How evil is it to rob people of that history? We were doing math freaking at the beginning of time, and architecture and music, and it's just unbelievable to me.
And the other piece of that is if you look at Egypt, right, and the contributions of Egypt to not this day. I don't know if you've noticed the whitewashing of Egypt, right? And the people will show Egyptians in ancient Egypt as Caucasian. They were not Caucasian. They were Black Africans. And why is that? Because it's amazing advances that people from North Africa that were Egyptian, they painted themselves brown. And yet you put them on TV and you show them to be a different color. Why? A lot of times even they'll talk of Egypt and they say that it's in the Middle East and try and take it away from the continent because they want to rob that narrative from, again, being a part of who we are and our story as people of African descent. And that we had a lot of amazing contributions that we made in terms of getting to where the world is today. And that's a part of our narrative. And we need to take that back.
Yes, 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 we do. We need to take that back. Take it back. You know, I know we have a fight on our hands to stop the miseducation and to take that history back and to make sure all children learn this history. But in the meantime, while we're trying to make that happen, I think it's important that people search out the information. One of the things one representative had said to me, she said, well, can't you all learn that in your church? Or that's the responsibility of home, you know, the family at home to teach those things. You know, yes, but not everybody has that at home. I mean, people are learning that with the online schooling right now. Some parents suck at online schooling. It's just not their thing, you know, and so to teach history and math and all sorts of things, some parents, some households are just not cut out to, you know, teach. So I think it's important that until we get this bill passed where it's a law that they have to teach the truth, I think.
And that's an interesting statement, right, Malika? Because at the end of the day, why is that even a statement? Because I like to say African history is Black history, is world history. So if you're teaching history and you're not teaching about Black history, you're not teaching about African history, then are you really teaching history?
Right.
We're not saying, why don't people teach history at home? We're not saying, why don't you teach math at home? Yes, we all as parents have a responsibility to reinforce what's happening in school and for our teachers. Some do it better than others, but it doesn't replace the need for us to make sure we're educating our kids correctly in whatever content that they're consuming. And it's not just for us. I think you and said, this is for all children. I had someone who mentioned to me, and she said, you know, what's interesting in our textbooks is that even from like scientists or contributions, they would have a picture for Caucasian, right, as an inventor in the book. But then some people didn't have pictures. Only when she got older, the assumption as a kid was they were also white. That's why there was no picture, so therefore there was white. Then she realized that, wait a minute, the folks that didn't have pictures when they were put in there were not white. That's why the picture wasn't there. So it made it seem like they were the only ones that contributed anything when it came to when they were learning about not just history, science, and art, and all these things. And she was like, I think it's important I had learned this when I went to college, and I happened to take an African history class in college. I would have loved to have taken that earlier. And how would that change maybe some of the perception and the challenges that we have today? Exactly. So at the end of the day, if we understood that ultimately we are all descendants, all of us, of an original Black African woman, and then over time, some of us changed how we looked, maybe we would look at each other different, and I could help. Maybe this is me just being in La La Land. We wouldn't see each other as being this concept of division, because we really are the same people at the core. And maybe we would see each other and not devalue each other as human beings if we really understood that. Maybe an older generation, maybe that's too late. But with our younger kids, I think it can really have a strong impact on how they perceive each other moving forward.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's been a hard pill to swallow. When I said it at the hearing in Springfield, I said, we are the original people on the planet. Some faces were like, you can't say that. No, don't say that. You know, but it's the truth. It's the
science says all the evidence is there, not feelings.
They were like, oh no, you cannot teach that. We cannot have that. But it's important that people know the truth. This is world history. Yes.
Yes.
The truth. I think it's important that parents, until we can make it a law that schools teach the true history of Black people. I think these kind of learning tools are like gold, and it will do so much for a child, for a young Black boy, young Black girl, just for self-knowledge, self-worth, self-identity, and then for all children, better race relations. So I thank you for this tool right here, this alone. And I know you have other things as well, but I'm so impressed, so impressed, and I thank you for doing this, seeing the need for it, Let me ask you.
Sorry, could you speak a little bit louder? I can't hear you, Malika. I'm not sure the audio connection.
In your household, what was being taught about Black Americans here? Like, what are you all taught in terms of the history here in America?
What am I teaching in terms of the history of Black history here in America?
Yeah, what were you taught about?
Back when before I came to the U.S.?
Yes.
Nothing. But we weren't really taught African history either at my time when I was growing up. We got independence in 1980, and I like to say our education system was still a colonial education. So I knew more about European history than African history. I only really started to know African history after I became an adult and started researching myself, after I got to the U.S. And then I started to say, I need to understand better who I am. I started to question things around some of my own perceptions of who I was as a person. And then at that same point, I also was I want to understand better the story of African Americans here, because when I arrived, that's who I identified with. To me, I may not have been a citizen of the U.S., but African Americans were the people I connect to. Even today, even though so much that has been lost, culturally, there's a lot that's still very much similar within us as people. So I had that natural connection, and I started to learn to understand what is the story and what is the history. And it pained me because it felt like there was such parallel between colonization and slavery. They were different. So I think there's an extra layer of, at least we were still on the African continent with a whole bunch of melanin people as you're going through the struggle, than having to have crossed the ocean and end up in a different country and lose a lot of elements that I think is an extra layer that was added on to kind of the African American experience that isn't the same. And when we got independence, at least as you growing up in Zimbabwe, I'm having to navigate as a parent, raising a child in America, not having my daughter saying doctors can't be Black, and hating her hair and wanting to chop it off, and all these things that I never did as a kid because I was surrounded by all these images, right? So my parents didn't have to buy all these books. So I'm constantly reaching out, trying to understand, okay, kid is not abnormal. My African parents are I remember when that happened to me when I was 5 years old. It's not good, but at least it's comforting to know that there's something that I can do to counter it. So I've been trying to teach my kids holistically around an appreciation of this Black and African pride, including the story and the narrative here, beyond just the typical players of Martin Luther King, right? And Rosa Parks, who sat with us. I really want to make them have a good understanding of that. And then layer on top of that other cultures and heritage on top. But you need to have a strong foundation and pride in who you are as a person. And then appreciate other people as well. So that's what we're trying to navigate in a country where initially I didn't understand what it was to be a minority because I'd grown up in a country where I was a majority. So I never even had to think about the concept of my race.
Okay. All right, Tapiwa. Well, I know you have to get going. Letting the viewers know this woman just had a baby and she looks phenomenal. So I know she has a little one waiting for her. Thank you so much, Tapiwa, for your time today. I've learned so much, and I am enjoying these. I mean, I know these are for little ones, youngsters, but let me tell you, there's some adults that need to order these cards. Some adults that need to order, because I am enjoying reading all of these cards I'm loving it. Thank you. This is like the best gift. The best gift. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome, Malika. Thank you for the opportunity to share them with some folks. And you're right. I think the intent is, I think they're good for anyone of all ages. You can get something from there. And I think whether you are from Africa or you don't have to be Black to appreciate them. If you like learning about the world and different cultures and places and royalty and stuff, you'll find that interesting. And it passes any color boundaries, but it's probably a little bit extra special. If you're of African descent, there's a little extra packaging in there that's an extra story for you to lean into.
Yes, yes. And let people know where they can order these flashcards.
You can order them from Sunrise, so that's SAANRIZE.com. And I'm not sure, Malika, if you could have a link or something. Are you publishing this somewhere?
Yeah, I'll put the link in there, but just so people can see, that's SAANRIZE.com.
Yes.
Okay, people? All right. Some great information in here. It's a gold mine. Be great for adults, children.
Great gift.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tapiwa, and tell Brian I said hello, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the long weekend.
Okay, you too. All right, this has been Malika, Evanston Live TV, and that was Tapiwa Dzingai. As you all can see, I love her energy, and let me tell you, these cards right here, I have been learning so much. I mean, you're thinking flashcards for kids, but no. Let me tell you, this is for adults too. You will be enriched learning so much. The royalty section really, really got me. I'm into us being royalty. I just connect to that. I don't know if it's because my name means queen. I don't know. But I want to learn more and more about who we were as kings and queens. But you all be sure to order your flashcards today. I'll put the link in the description. And I'm sure we're going to hear more from Tapiwa. She's one of those brilliant minds. She's got other things in the works. All right. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.